Hi everyone, it's Karen and I'm back with my first design team project for the month of February for AngeldreamCraftsKim on Etsy. And I will put a link to Kim's shop on Etsy in the description box below. So with one easy click you can go over and do some shopping. And she has loaded more yummy goodies into the shop recently, and I know she's got more things on the way, so lots of fun things are coming in to play with and create with. And I will also leave links for all the designers in the description box below, so you can go over and see what projects they're creating this month, and hopefully they will inspire you to create something of your own. So in front of you I have created some hearts for February. I'm not a big Valentine's person, as I've mentioned before, but I always like hearts. I use hearts lots of times in my designs. It doesn't matter the time of year. I just love them. And I had this beautiful red fabric, a piece of fabric that I had purchased in a thrift store find. And I decided to use that as the base, and then I put felt on the back, and then I decorated them up with the yummy goodies from Kim's shop. And so I'm going to take them to the side and go through them one at a time. I also created a clothespin that is on the top of each of them. This is the clothespin, and it's just one of the little ones, and I put some ribbon on it for the base, and then I just built it up from there. I used pieces of Kim's lace, little tiny pieces that I cut and I tucked in here. And this is even one of her trims, the dangle trim I used last month. These are the tiny little pieces that were on the dangles. And I even cut a few of those and tucked them in here. And although they're so small, they do really add something of interest to these little clothespins. And they're just something to be able to hang this up with. I thought these would be cute hanging on the wall or on a doorknob. They're about 4.5 inches across, and then of course some of them have lace around the edges, so that makes them a little bit bigger. And I think they're about the same, about 4.5 inches long as well, not counting the dangles. A couple of them have dangles. There is the heart. I took this lace that I had in my design team package for this month, and I actually cut it in half. You can see I cut sort of, not exactly in half. I cut along here and along the edge of this flower, then down through this meshy part, and then followed it along again. So it ended up, this side looked like that, had a scallop on the side with sort of the flowers, and it had a bit of a drop down for each of those. And then this side looked like this. So it had these flowers along, and it had more of this kind of stitching, because it kind of had that wave to it anyway on here. So because these are smaller, I didn't need that large of a piece of lace. So I started with doing half the heart in, let's see, which side of the lace did I use? I used this side. So I cut my piece off like that, and these hearts are all hand stitched. I did have to use a tiny bit of glue to glue on the little wooden hearts that I painted, and then I sparkled them up. And so I added those. The sparkle doesn't come off. I use clear nail polish, just a touch of it over the top, and it helps to seal that in. So this lace was put on like this, and then was curved around and stitched onto this, and the felt is on the back. Now, any stitching that I did in the middle here, I did invisibly, so you don't see those stitches on the back, except if I made a mistake, and I don't think I did on this one. But the outside stitching, I left it to show. And this lace I stitched on using a fine, actually very fine thread, and I used these little pink beads all around the edge of it. And one of the things I wanted to show doing this project was how lovely adding beads and other embellishments to Kim's laces, how easy it is and how beautiful they look. So this just all stitched with these tiny little pink beads. These are very misshapen little beads. They're not expensive. I got them from the dollar store. I've had them in my stash for a while, but they work. And then after I put that lace on, I had these 3 or 4 flowers left from her floral trim that she had in her shop. And so I cut them out and added them onto here. And then I had a bit of this dangle trim left in my stash, and so I put it along the side of here. And if you look closely, you can see the little embroidery stitches that I used. I just couched it on, which means that you just use little stitches and you go along and tack it down onto your piece, and it's called couching. So I did that all along the edge here with that trim, and then I added a tassel with that as well. And then I already talked about the little hearts that are on there, and I did this, the wooden pieces came with this XOXO, and I've had these in my stash for a while. I think they're probably from Michael's, or I'm assuming, but I've had them for a while. And I put those on there, and I also painted them and put some sparkle on there. And then I made the butterflies again out of the bows from Kim's shop, and I just wound some beads around them to finish them off. So that's the first. So this is a piece of lace from Kim's shop as well. It's actually half of a double-sided lace that she had in the shop, and I used a piece of that to make the hanger. The second one is again made with that same lace that I showed you. And this time you can see that I use the outer edge. So I used this edge of it this time. You can see by the scallop on there. And so I cut it apart. I used that side on that one, and on this one I did it around the whole outer edge. And again, how did I do this one? Oh, I used little white beads and stitched it down first with little white beads in the centers of the flowers. That's what I did. Hard to remember what I did because I did it in layers. And then I did little pink beads as well. And I added on the leaf trim, which was in my design team package actually last month, but I used the little bit of that I had left. And I added sort of a vine of it here and a few leaves of it here and here. And again, that's couched on with some pink embroidery floss. And you can see those stitches there. Another butterfly made from one of the bows from Kim's shop. A few more of the wooden pieces that I painted and put the sparkle on, added to this one. These are the 3 of the pink flowers from Kim's shop that I had in last month's design team package. This little lace flower here is made from 2 of the laces I had in my design team package for this month. This is the cotton one, and I'll show you that in a second, and this is an edge of one of the other ones. And what I did with the cotton one, as I had mentioned in my design team package, you can cut this up, and I actually cut out, and I've already started doing another one here, but I cut out these little sort of medallions in the middle, and I stretched it really well, and it makes like a little tiny doily. And they're actually really nice to add in when you're building flowers, because this can be even the final doily before you put your center on. But with little flowers, it actually works as your back piece. So that is stitched down, and then I made the other flower by using, this was another lace in my design team package, and again I cut it up. I had mentioned that you could cut this into 2 different laces, and I did. And so this little lace on the side here, which works out to about 1/2 inch from the widest part here, I cut that off separately, and I just gathered it along the bottom. And so you get this beautiful little scallop where you've cut this off from the netting. And I just gathered up a little piece of it, and I made this cute part of this gathered flower. Added a few pink stitches in the center to stitch it down, and stitched on a little pearl bead there. And I added a couple more little pearl beads in there as well. And the tassel is with the leaf trim from the shop. So that was that one. And this one, the the lace is the other half from that lace that I mentioned that I cut it in half to make two. And that was just in my stash, but it is from Kim's shop. And another one of the little clothespins. And this one you can see those little pieces a little bit more on this one. I did them each a little different. And I added some stickles into the flowers and stuff just to make them sparkle, along with the sparkly little wood piece, little hearts that are in there. But that was part of that trim. That was the dangle on it, and I cut it into little pieces. So waste nothing. Like, I'm serious, I have a few of these still sitting in a little, I keep all these little bits in a container, and I still have a few of those little bits left, and they'll be used on something. So we'll just pop that one over here. The next one has the beautiful pink floral lace that was in my design team package in January, and I had a little piece left. And I used beads again to attach this all down. And I used a pink bead and a little pearly bead and another pink bead, a sets of 3, and I stitched that all on with that. And you can see how pretty that looks, that trim looks with the added beads in it. Along here, I went along and did French knots with some silky embroidery floss, and so added French knots into the center of the flowers along the edge here. So it just shows you again the different things that you can do with the laces, adding on some hand stitching of your own. This is one side of that cotton trim, this side. So I just cut it off just right along that sort of heavier piece all through there. I just cut these all off, and then that leaves those pieces all with the medallion in the center to use for your little, as your little doilies. So I used that piece there, and I gathered it a tiny bit as I was going along, which is something you kind of have to do when you're going to go on a curve anyway, because otherwise it wouldn't lay properly. And again, I stitched it all on with beads, and I also used that silky pink embroidery floss first to do the gathering, so you get more of the pink in there. I really like pink and red together. I think it's really pretty. So you see the pink embroidery floss, and then you also see the pink and white little beads that I used to stitch that all on. And then this flower is got half of one of these flowers cut out and cut in half, and I've just tucked it under each side of this flower underneath here, just again to give it a little bit more, 3 of them, 3 little pieces to give it just something a little bit more. And another little bow butterfly, and this one I just wrapped some of that pink embroidery floss around it. And then this part of this gathered flower, and it also has one of the medallions there for the base of it. And then the gathered part is, I have to think, it's this side. So what I do is I cut along here, and this is becomes like a V. So you just cut along the medallions, and you cut out, I think I did probably about 5, because I didn't want the flower very big. And then I just used a gathering stitch and gathered it all along the edge here. And so what happens is you get these little peaks are the edge of your flower. So it looks super scrappy. It looks great, actually. And so all this is because of that. And I should count. I think I did more than I thought. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like 6 or 7 of those little V's. And then I gathered that all up, and then I used some embroidery floss again to sort of make some stamens that help stitch all that gathering in place. And then I stitched a pearl in the center of there. And then this one has just a single word love on the side. Again, it is paint. No, this one I didn't paint. I left it natural colored because of the natural colored lace on there. I just left it natural, but I did put the fine. I used a really, really fine sparkle on there. So that's that one. And this one has a pink ribbon on it for the hanger, and it has another cute little clothespin that's all decorated up. You can see some of the leaves from Kim's shop are on this one, another little piece of that lace. And I put a little piece of lace down the side here too that I had from her shop. And then of course the flowers with the stickles, and some of the little hearts are in there too. So that's that one. And then the last one is this one. And I think this is my favorite one. I had a lot of fun creating this really pretty little edge on here using the other part of that lace. So remember I said that I cut it and I used this fine little side, but this side, of course, was left. And so I just gathered it along here. But when I cut it, I left a lot of the mesh on here. This one's cut a little bit differently. I cut this side, you can see here, this is the side that I was using. And I cut these out really close to the edge so that it left me lots of this netting. And then I gathered it right through here. So it left all this mesh as well. And that is what you see sort of flopping here. And I left it because I just loved how it looked. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to tack it down with some beads or something. But afterwards, after I put, you can see I used sequins and beads in the center of this one. So after I gathered it, in order to get it onto this heart, I used beads and sequins and I stitched them all on. Now this one, because of all the detailing with the sequins and the beads, I stitched it first and I put the backing on afterwards. So it doesn't show any stitching on the back. It's just too hard when you're doing sequins and beads because you have to go up and down through the bead and through the sequin and everything. It's hard to do that in a stitch that doesn't show. You have to really go up and down through your project. So that's what you see through the middle of there. All the way down is the pink sequins, and I think they're little white, sort of frosty white beads. And then again at the top here I did one of the bow butterflies and just did some embroidery floss around the center. On this edge is the other half of that lace, and I cut along, and then I just put that on the edge here. And because I didn't want to gather it, because I didn't want to lose the look of these little flowers that are in that lace. So you can see what I did was I made little snips in it all the way along, which creates sort of a scallopy look along the edge here. And it also allows the fabric to have a little bit of stretch. And that again is a sewing technique to allow the fabric to lay flatter when you don't gather it and you're putting it on a curve like that. So it has those little snips in it which have a mechanical reason for doing them, but they end up having a really pretty look about them as well, which I just love because it looks more scalloped. And then it left me all the little flowers, which I stitched in the center of each flower and then in between them with little tiny French knots in that pink embroidery floss. So you can see that pink all along there. And then these two little flowers and the center of this one are all that little trim that was in my design team package in January. I had a tiny bit left. And I had mentioned I like making little flowers out of that trim as well as using it around images or as an extra piece along the top of a lace for extra texture. But here I just gathered up, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the scallops, and I made these little gathered flowers. I think this one might be 6 because I think I used all of it up. So I used what I had and kind of divided it up. And then in the center of these, I clustered in several, probably 6 or 8 little pink French knots to create the centers for those. And then this one is the same thing. In the center of this one, though, I used the pink sequins and the beads like I had used over here. That's what I stitched in the center of this one. And then I also put one of those little medallions, like a little piece of, like a little doily in the back of that one to create that flower. And I really like using these little medallions like little doilies. I think they're super cute on small flowers, and they also would be nice in building when building a larger flower. And then this one just again says love on it with one of those wooden pieces. This one's painted and has the sparkle on it. And then this one has a pink ribbon again. And again, this is one of the little clothespins, and this one has the crocheted lace down the side here. It has a piece of the little piece of white lace from Kim's shop that kind of had scallops on it, and I cut each individual piece out and used that. And then just some other things from my stash, and of course the flowers and the stickles and the little wooden heart on that one. That is the 4 of them, and I think they turned out really, really nice. I am really pleased with them. I think it really shows you the versatility of the laces in Kim's shop and what you can do with them. And I'm going to do a giveaway. So anyone who's stuck with me to the end is going to find out that you could have one of these for your own. So leave me a comment below and tell me which one is your favorite. And also tell me, do you celebrate Valentine's Day, or is it just another day of the week? So tell me that in the description box below. And those people that have been with me this length of time and listened to me gabbing will know about the giveaway. And if I get more people asking than I have enough hearts to send out, I have the 4 of them, then I'll do a draw. And if not, I'll just give it to the 4 people that leave their comments. And I'll let you know after Valentine's Day. I'll let you know who the people are that won. Okay, thanks for coming by and having a listen. And Georgie's saying hi in the background, so it must be time for me to go. I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.